All right. Good morning, everybody. Um, this is the lecture for the week of Labor Day, starting September 7th, Monday, September 7th. Hopefully, everybody's off work. Most of us lucky IT workers get the holiday off. And hopefully, by the time you're listening to this, you're at the end of a very nice 3-day weekend. I wish you all the best. I am going to take some vacation, but I'll have my laptop with me this week. Going to hit the road, get out of Arkansas for a little while. Okay, so this week we talk about one of the um, really growing, booming, and critical areas of data analytics and big data exploration, and that's in healthcare. And all of the data that we are getting makes me wonder how anybody lived 50 years ago, or how they survive without all of this uh, digitized information. Although I jest, it's you can see a direct correlation between um, modern healthcare using analytics and those populations that don't have access to it, as far as mortality rates, infant mortality, how long we live, and then the quality of that length of that life. Although there's some folks living out there in traditional lifestyles, doing the right thing, eating the right foods, getting exercise. I think Okinawa, last time I knew, people on Okinawa lived the longest and healthiest lives. And it's not because of big data and MRI machines and all of that. It's because they walk and they work and they eat right. Especially in in America, it is so easy to make the wrong choices, get overweight, and sit on that couch and play that PS4 and stare at your computer. But anyway, I digress. So this week we're going to talk about the big data and healthcare analytics and the the four. That's a big area, right? That's a huge topic. So I'm going to help you focus on the discussion question this week, so that you're not just trying to throw some overview of of a very wide topic. Um, so we'll talk about the four areas of challenges that face folks in the healthcare analytics world. And I'm really looking forward to uh, some of your comments. Some of you work in this area directly, so I look forward to you sharing not just um, stuff you're regurgitating from journal articles, but no kidding, you guys are experts in the field, and I look forward to your original um, thoughts and observations and opinions. Um, okay, so then I want to talk a little bit about dissertation foundations. One thing I've noticed now, this is my fifth, yeah, fifth semester with Cumberland's, is that they're still modifying the program. They're still growing the approach to the program and recognizing the need for students to get ready to be researchers earlier in the program. Um, one that's something they're working on. So they have urged all of us during your coursework to to get you ready for the types of things that you'll need to know and do to become a researcher and get through your dissertation and become a PhD. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll conclude with some final thoughts, and you'll be off to a week with a discussion. No paper due this week, just the discussion. Okay. So healthcare analytics. The the overall software is growing that performs analytics, but the sources of big data, healthcare is um, one of those generators, one of those sources of big data. Um, and that big data comes from several primary locations. And again, guys, I'm not a healthcare analytics guy. I'm an enterprise information systems guy, so I understand where this stuff's coming from, but I don't work in this particular domain. Though it is fascinating, as any human would be, really, interested in advances in healthcare and how big data analysis can help. But one of the primary sources here is the move toward electronic health records, where each and every one of us have our inoculations, vaccines, and our test results, and our diagnoses, and all of our prescriptions, and all of the diagnostic imaging that we've had in the form of X-rays and MRIs and CT scans and CAT scans and uh, um, you know uh, barium swallow with a X-ray. I've had a lot of these. I've had several MRIs. I had some gastrointestinal problems where you swallow barium and then they X-ray you, and the barium highlights your gastrointestinal tract. Can't recall all the X-rays I've had, but this stuff is all kind of scattered around. I'm 56, and they didn't even really have computers in hospitals. Um, when I became an adult, not really. Everything was on paper. So electronic health records is a move to standardize the content so that it can be exchanged and analyzed um, without being just a really cumbersome text mining exercise like it is um, for some things that are not formatted and developed with a protocol and data validation steps. So EHR is kind of the promise of being able to, no kidding, get a grip on analyzing all of our health, and it'll be years and years and years and years and years, even in the U.S. Because of all the different challenges. But this is what's going to allow information sharing. This is what's going to allow. Say you're on vacation. You live in Dallas, Texas. You're on vacation in Anchorage, Alaska, and you get injured. They find you laying there and take you to the hospital. Uh, with EHR, they can bring up your record and have access to, maybe they see that you're diabetic and they can save your life because you're in a diabetic coma in Anchorage, Alaska, and they would have no way of knowing that, and maybe you would die if you didn't have that information sharing. So it holds great promise, but uh, there are concerns, and it's different from EMR. Electronic medical records are really just scanning old medical records. That's much lower tech than actually standardizing all of the, like, it'd be like designing a database for whatever, a customer resource management, really customer relationship management system. Designing EHR is an information system that has uh, plugins for everything that you could ever want to know about a human being and their health history. So this, that potentially, if you think about it, um, when you're young, you don't go to the doctor very often. You don't rely on it too much. If you're young and you're healthy, my medical record was very, very thin for years and years and years. And then as I got older, I started to generate more data, and as will we all, like, very likely, as you get older. Um, so yeah, there's That's one data source. And then, the patient monitoring systems. You've got, uh, the usual litany of probes when you're laying in bed in a hospital, taking, the occasional blood pressure automatically. It's sensing your respiration, your O2 level, your heartbeat. Um, did I say temperature? Temperature. Um, uh, now, but there are also in-home patient monitoring systems that generate a ton of data. Something that's come up on my radar a little bit lately is they send you home with these sleep with tests. Send you home with a sensor on you, and then that data can either be uploaded, or you come back into the hospital and they download the data from the sensing apparatus that you've been wearing. And then, like, my mother-in-law has a pacemaker that she holds a little sensor up to, and it actually uses dial-up to transfer information to the healthcare provider. But those sort of things most of that's going to TCP/IP. And there's a big overlap with IoT, medical IoT, Internet of Things. Um, like, especially when you go to a hospital, you've got all these patient devices, and even the patients and their families are holding, have a tablet where they can look at what's going on, what's the next scheduled test or event, or how often should the nurse be coming in to check on things, and the staff is using tablets or workstations you see pushed around on a cart often, to track what's going on, to track medical logistics, whenever they use something, because a lot of this medical equipment is expensive and it's rare, when it comes to blood and drugs and things that they're using in the hospital. So all of those real time systems are generating an enormous amount of data, um, that can be aggregated if the hospitals are willing to share it. You could look at something like, like we did during the pandemic, the nationwide inventory of N95 masks, because these medical logistics systems report when these supplies are being exhausted. And since it's a public health concern, it's much more important for medical logistics information to be shared, patient information and medical logistics. All the above fall into healthcare analytics. So yeah, if you're in this world, can't wait to see your responses to the discussion. But of course, because it's so sensitive, there's also going to be privacy concerns. Um, the more important something is, the more important it is to safeguard it, and there are privacy concerns with HIPAA and you know data breaches, but not even just data breaches, just data governance within the healthcare organization. You've got to have strict limits, because healthcare organizations are duty bound to limit information to only employees that need it for direct patient care. And I actually have a colleague that thought he was doing the right thing, as a healthcare. He's not a provider. He's in management at a hospital, and he accessed a patient's record thinking he was doing the right thing, and they determined that he did not need to be doing what he was doing. It should have been a provider, and he was given the opportunity to resign rather than be fired. So these privacy concerns, no kidding, they're career benders, if not enders. Um, so the way data is governed, the way it's designed, the way it's protected, and siloed affects the way it's shared. I mean, they are uh, competing with each other. Sharing and protecting are are in direct competition, and they have to be engineered carefully. Solutions have to be engineered with both in mind as constraints. And then, of course, everyone has ethical concerns about all of this aggregate data and like being um, pre-existing conditions, being identified in your health record such that your health insurance is canceled because you're too much of a risk, or it is found that through genetic testing uh, you are likely to develop a genetically linked disease. And I'm not that kind of doctor. But let's say they find diabetes or dementia are genetic, and if you have that, or can be your disposition to that condition is genetic, not necessarily inherited. There's a minor difference. But anyway, yeah, they find out that you're likely to get Alzheimer's disease. They cancel your insurance because they don't want to pay for it because it's monstrously expensive. And also hiring decisions. If you seek treatment for drug or alcohol abuse, and that's in your medical record, and it gets out, could be something that would keep you from getting a job somewhere, as well as people might not want to hire you because they see that you've got maybe depression, and they're worried that your mental health will keep you from performing well on the job, and that would be anti-ethical of the company. So there's ethics and privacy concerns with all of this data, as you would think, outside of the technical challenges. So our discussion this week is about the challenges, and the read the instructions on the classroom. They are much more detailed than what you are seeing here. Um, but there are challenges with each of these categories, okay, that you will find as you read the literature. Again, this course takes hours and hours to be successful, to not sound stupid in your papers and your discussions. Unfortunately, it takes time and effort for you to sound informed and as if you've prepared. Um, so time. So get out there. There's tons of stuff on healthcare analytics that deal with these particular challenges. And you've seen in my discussion replies and in your feedback, um, just general blah 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 is going to get you a failing grade. You're going to wind up going through this course and getting an F if you think you can just blah blah blah. You got to be specific. You got to know what you're talking about. And this stuff isn't rocket science. You guys all have master's degrees in IT, so it's really not asking too much for you to be specific. But I am going to give you a little more help after we talk about this discussion question that might help you um, understand what I'm talking about and accept it. Understand and accept that this is a different program. This is not another master's degree. So, all right. So data gathering. What could be some of the challenges? Again, there are 3 articles I've put out there that lead you towards these 4 areas. I think one of them is specific to these 4 areas, but go out and browse. Give a scan of some of the sources. Don't just stick with the articles in the uh, in this week's reading. Okay, you've seen the grading rubric, right? When I see people really, no kidding, giving it the work, they get 25 out of 25 of this. Some of you who are getting less than 20, that was a warning. Okay, it's going to get worse if your performance doesn't improve. Um, so data gathering, get assembling this data? What are the challenges? You've got uh, accessibility. Um, First of all, you've got to get the patient hooked up to a data generating device. You've got bandwidth issues. You've got hospitals out there in the middle of the country, or maybe that aren't even connected to the internet. So what are the challenges to gathering this data together? You've got incompatibility within the data sets. So you've got the variety angle of big data analysis. Um, so yeah, but I'm not that's what I'm looking for you to be specific in addressing. And I would think you could come up with at least two examples specific to each of these four categories. Okay, like give me two specific examples of and cite your author, cite your source. But why is data gathering? What is challenging about gathering healthcare data? And you will find examples out there in the literature if you just take the time to go out and do it. I probably spent 20, 30 hours a week on my doctorate. So when I see folks coming in on Sunday night getting it 10 minutes, um, I'm not impressed, and I'm inclined to give zeros. So anyway, yeah. So specific to data gathering, um, and if you have questions on any of this, email me. God, I got 2 questions this week. You people are not taking advantage of your resources when you don't email questions. Um, and then storage, of course, you have, you know, for example, whenever you store data, you have security vulnerabilities within and external to the healthcare agency. Um, you have size problems as far as just pure storage is concerned, and integration. Then you have sharing challenges. How do you integrate that data? So take my healthcare data and your healthcare data and integrate that along with thousands and millions of other people's. How do you integrate that data without violating ethics uh, and privacy challenges, or even just solving the 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 problems uh, of the the variety of the data um, coming in different formats. Some of it's free text, some of it is highly formatted, highly structured, some of it's very unstructured. And then analyzing that what is the best tool? What are the challenges in analyzing the data? So I identify those challenges. Uh, um, is it is it a lack of expertise? But again, for all of these, don't make your own opinion. Don't everything you say of substance in your dissertation is going to have to be documented in the literature. So you need to be finding these points. According to Smith, 2019, the primary challenge with data analysis in healthcare is a lack of expertise. And he might not have said that word for word. Hopefully, he didn't say that word for word because you don't need to be quoting people directly like that. But when you're citing a source, uh, um, they should have made that point clearly in their paper. That should be one of their findings or something like that. So the final one is challenges in knowledge discovery and information interpretation. And knowledge discovery kind of lends towards maybe machine learning of large data sets, machine learning and AI. But what are the challenges in no kidding digging through millions of patient records and finding you people are doing it now. You see it on the news. If you're not literally in the fight, the COVID-19 pandemic fight, you see them pop up on the news. A new study shows that there's a correlation between obesity and morbidity rates for COVID-19. Well, that's somebody addressing the challenge of discovering knowledge within these large data sets and finding patterns, clusters that were previously maybe not necessarily known. And then, information challenges with interpreting information. That whole the basic correlation does not determine causation. That's the first one I think we all learn when it comes to interpreting data. Um, there's a correlation between height and age, but height does not cause age. Age causes height. So you have to interpret that information. But again, none of these four things that we'll be discussing this week should be your own opinion in your initial response. Okay, in your initial response, try and find what researchers are saying the challenges that are associated with these four things. Okay. Um, and I would like to change this out. This discussion has been used before, which means it's out there on the internet. So I would encourage you to specifically and intentionally shun anything that might pop up on your radar from the internet, and just use your own brain and journal articles. That's it. Your mind and journal articles. Uh, and practitioner websites if you need a definition of something, or some examples. But stick to the peer-reviewed journal articles and their research. Use a header for each of these categories. Okay, so I should see those four categories in your response. Okay, so what do you think is going to happen if I just see giant paragraphs? You got it. Okay, I provided 3 articles. Uh, you know, uh, there's many thousands more out there. Okay, guys, um, dig in. And again, converse, don't lecture. I've warned quite a few of you about the good post. It was very good. I even saw this. You saw it in class conversation, and the identical preamble of, "I read your post. It was very good. Thank you for the wonderful post. You are so smart." Just forget that stuff, guys. All right. It's intellectually insulting. Just just say good post, or hey, that was thought provoking. Da 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 da, and then say what you're going to say. Don't use half of your post to, as we say, butter up your classmates or me. And then the add a few points. I'm going to give a 0 when I just wanted to add a few points, and then you try and lecture. I saw that in the week 1 conversation with the 3F method. That 3F method has never been used by anyone anywhere outside of that article. But when you guys were responding to each other, you were talking about it as if you were experts in that method and had lots of experience with it. So that's what I'm getting at. When you are in class discussion, uh, don't lecture each other. Talk to each other and me. Talk as if you would talk. Don't play act like, you know, yeah, yes, the 3F method is definitely important for the world. No, that's being a phony. That's putting on airs. That's faking it. The discussion board should be for discussion. And yes, that's going to take some time and reflection and original writing. But that's what I'm looking for. Okay. So uh, please share what you really think or what you really learned from your reading. You know what I mean? But make sure you use a conversational tone so that you don't sound like you're trying to come off like some kind of expert. Okay? Conversational. So it's early in the semester, but too many zeros on this, even the residency weekend won't get you through. All right, guys. So I'm as clear as I can be. If you're doing the discussion without watching these videos, then tough. Um, it's not too much to ask. All right. So that's the week 3 discussion assignment. And I wanted to thank those of you that are holding others accountable for their nonsense. And I encourage you that got called on things and the quality of your posts. All is forgiven as long as you change your ways and get with the program and improve. Okay, there you go. All right, now dissertation foundations. The whole point of a PhD program is to teach you to be a researcher, to think like a researcher. Okay, let that settle in. You need to think like a researcher, not like a subject matter expert that just happens to know a lot of stuff because of advanced coursework. Um, that's what a master's degree is for. Uh, all of your coursework, you should be looking at the topics as if you were going to conduct research in that area, original research. You understand? This course isn't just for you to learn big data analysis so that you can, whip up a Hadoop file system and go to town and impress your boss. That's not what the PhD is for. The PhD is for you to be able to examine these topics from the mindset of a researcher. Okay. So, in order to do that, you need to understand what an original research project is. The word research gets used kind of broadly. Um, yes, your weekly research papers are research papers, but that's the weakest definition of the term research. If you read something, yes, and you learned about it, yes, you were doing research. True, true. But you need to understand an original research is a project that goes out and tries to explore and create new knowledge, not leaning on what's already been done, but actually expanding what you'll hear the term the body of knowledge. Okay, so you need to understand what original research is, and you need to be ready to conduct original research for your dissertation. You will either gather new data or examine some existing data in a new way for your dissertation. So you need to, in all things for this program, you need to to be thinking like a researcher and learning how to be a researcher. And that's not difficult. It's not complex. It's just a mindset. It's just a different way of thinking about yourself from reading those boring journal articles to actually thinking about how you would write, how you would create the knowledge that goes into a good journal article. Okay. All right. So another um, thing that you need to be able to do, and again, this is not difficult if you take the time to do it, is recognize that when you go out on Google Scholar or you go onto any top rated journal, any peer rated journal, you are going to find different types of articles, the literature, as we say. Um, there are different types of articles. Um, some report the results of original research, and they will tell you their method. They sent out surveys to 1,500 software developers, and they asked them about the effectiveness of their agile software development methodology. Um, and then they report the results of those surveys, and then they discuss what the implications might be. And again, this is all grounded in other literature. You rarely see um, a good journal article, say like MIS Quarterly. Management Information Systems Quarterly is arguably the top information systems journal um, out there. Uh, so you hardly ever see a journal article in a real, no kidding, high quality publication like MISQ. About every other sentence is backed up, and if it's something backed up by a citation of a good article, um, so you don't make claims out of the blue in this world. So you need to be able to recognize different types of literature. Some report um, the results of original research. Some uh, kind of look at a research that's already been done, but line it up against a new framework, maybe a new theory. Some research is based on a theory, like the technology acceptance model. That would be a good information systems theory for you to look up and become familiar with, because it's easy to understand and it's been applied a bunch of times in original research projects. The technology acceptance model, or TAM, you'll see it abbreviated TAM. But there are many out there. So some articles, like the 3F methodology, used an example to try and get a new framework established, or a new theory, a new method. So you'll see a lot of those out there. They are not original research, really. Um, Although that 3F article kind of sort of did apply. They showed you one application of that bibliometric uh, brain gain, brain drain analysis method, although not the best article in the world. So you will see that also. You'll see people proposing a new framework. There are articles out there that you'll see many of them that propose a data analytics maturity model assessment, where you can go into a company and you can assess their maturity as regarding how they do data analytics and the processes and people and tools that they have in place. That'd be a good thing for you to look at on Google Scholar. Uh, Data analytics maturity model. You'll see different models out there, but you'll see very few uh, original research projects that go out and validate that model, or conduct assessments and report the results of those assessments, and then discuss what they found and the reasonableness of the model, uh, and any um, problems or gaps they found in that model. Now, so you need to recognize what you're reading when you read it. That's the main thing. Not every If you think every journal article is just full of keywords, full of buzzwords and sentences that you can just use, there you go. There's your buzzword. You're mistaken, and you'll never get your dissertation defended. Um, at least I hope not. Uh, so yeah, make sure you're reading these journal articles and you know what you're reading. You know the purpose of the article and what the author is trying to get ahead, because there are different things. Some of them are just literature reviews. In fact, let me get out of here and bring up one of the articles today. A systematic review. There we are. This is the Cruz et al. Article. And I believe, yes, they highlight the method of their literature review. A literature review uh, is a systematic way of walking through all of these articles that conduct original research, um, and reporting the results, like an aggregate of them. Um, and here they use their methodology of their research review. And you're going to have to do a literature review for your dissertation. You might also do a literature review according to one of these frameworks. And then there's another one here that used, I think it's called Prism. Uh, it wasn't that one. I think it might have been the other one. Hopefully, it was this one. Yeah, Prisma guidelines. Um, that's another method for conducting a literature review. So these people, they talk about where their data came from in doing their literature review. These are good quality structured literature reviews. So like I said, you're gonna need to know that. So let me go back into slideshow. Um, yeah, different kinds of literature, um, and what they're good for, and what they prove, what they add to your research area and your research project and the direction you're going. And then and you'll get more of this, guys. You'll get this later, but uh, you can use your coursework to work on your dissertation if you think about it early enough. Some of you are in your first semester, and you've got plenty of time. If you can decide on, the basic research area that you want to work on, which we will eventually get to very, very finely, very, very precisely in this course. If you think about what you're doing, you can use your coursework to advance your dissertation. Okay, so research methods are, like any sort of method, a software development methodology, like Agile or Waterfall or whatever, SDLC. A methodology is just a way of doing something. And um, there are two families of research methods that you've probably heard of, and quantitative being um, the kind of the most specific, most numeric, measurable, where no kidding, you set up a null hypothesis, and then you gather data and you accept or reject the null hypothesis based on however you set it up with a sample means test. So quantitative research and you'll see out there, you will see in the journal articles that they will tell you in no uncertain terms that they did a quantitative research project, and what was the research hypothesis, how did they collect the data, what did uh, the statistics show was the confidence interval in accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis. So you need to make sure that you understand when you see these, what was the methodology, and at the other end of the spectrum, and it really is a spectrum. It's not a discrete either qualitative or quantitative. It is a spectrum between the two, where qualitative is much more exploratory and descriptive in nature, but it's somewhat subjective. Qualitative research depends on the researcher to interpret their results. But as you will find, there are methods for assuring qualitative data analysis is accurate and worthwhile. But yeah, you'll see that. You'll see, qualitative is like interviews and asking follow-on questions, and then starting to see, themes in what you're hearing. You can do qualitative research on photographs that identify what you're looking at in a given time period. The number of cars on the street in New York City based on photographic evidence. There's a whole lot of different projects out there. I did a qualitative interview project to look at enterprise social media and attitudes. Like qualitative research is very largely a human endeavor, whereas some quantitative projects can be very much just like the algorithmic efficiency of a new data analysis tool, say, very quantitative. Okay, so you need to, when you're out there looking at articles, you need to understand if you're reading an original research project, and if so, what was their research method? Um, and then you need to understand the concept of a research question. I have posed this to all of my classes, and in response, I'll often see students coming back with just a topic area. A research question is something that can be answered. What is the correlation between age and height? That's a research question. Of course, it's been answered. But you will come up with research questions. They can be quantitative, they can be qualitative. The question drives the rest of your research. If you ask your question in a fashion that it can only be answered through quantitative means, and or experimental design, then that's your research project. Your question drives everything else. So if you were going to ask, uh, you know, what are corporate managers' attitudes towards data visualization software, that's going to be, you know, qualitative in nature. If you were to, um, yeah. Anyway, you'll get this in the future, but look it up. We'll talk more in this course, and you'll get more in the program. But if you don't understand what a research question is, you probably aren't going to be able to analyze literature very well. So you need to kind of pick that up. I don't know if you guys have had this, great, but in my experience, you have not. As a population, some have, most have not. So I got to cover it. And then the skill, you will see in these articles that these authors define a problem. They define why they're doing what they're doing and why it contributes. Why do we care? Uh, that is defined in the journal articles that they cite. And generally speaking, these authors are not being phonies. They're not just sticking a citation in there because it looks like, oh golly, there, I have a citation. I now look like an academic writer. I spot check your uh, your sources, okay? And I talked about paraphrasing, and I gave an example of citing a source back in week 1 in my EndNote and Word video. And that's what I'm looking for from you guys. If I see a citation and I email you and I say, hey, where exactly, and I mean, I want to know what sentence in what paragraph or what sentences uh, um, reinforce what you're talking about. Because you can't just use just, oh, well, he talked about big data. So there's your citation. You need to be making a point, like in this week's discussion, the challenges associated with gathering data. According to Smith, 2019, the biggest challenge in gathering data in healthcare analytics is access to the internet or whatever the journal article says, but it needs to be the primary point of that article. Not just, the title sounds good. Okay. So I'll be spot checking. And if I don't get an email back from you, same day, you need to have your email on your phone. Okay. If I email you and you get back to me slowly, as one of you did, and kept your zero, um, then that's on you. Okay. That's on you. I check my email twice a day. Um, the few of you that have emailed me can attest to the fact that I'm on it. And if you guys are not on it, you know, that's nothing I can help you with. All right. So I got my free academic account on Course Hero, and I can even see familiar names. Course Hero and Study.com and whatnot, places like that are for cheaters. They are for cheaters that are trying to take shortcuts. And I've said it before. I'll keep saying it as long as I keep seeing cheating, like cutting and pasting somebody else's discussion post, exactly what they said in the discussion post, and you post it in as your own. When I see cheating, man, I get angry. You need to realize that. Okay. And I have access to this and several other study sites. You'll notice 82 documents from ITS836. That is shameful. Uh, a few of them are slides from classes, a few of them. But some people shared their tests. That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting that you would share the results of a quiz. And then there are three people go, yeah, that helped me great. I like that. Three University of Cumberland's ITS 836 students. Very helpful. Thank you. I don't really want to learn anything as I become a PhD, and I don't want to know what I'm talking about. I just want the grade. That's what that says. So, yeah, good grief. So, in conclusion, uh, I think we discussed this at length. Big data in healthcare is exploding. No kidding, right? And that's why you will find many examples of clearly defined challenges in specific areas. Specific areas. Okay. And while showing great promise to increase our longevity and our quality of life, those challenges persist, and we're going to talk about those 4 different categories. And then this third bullet is just general. I'm seeing evidence that you are not doing this. So start with an outline and then write every word in every sentence, in every paragraph. Build them as you are telling the story. Of course, you will paraphrase what some authors' findings were, as I have taught you how to do. If you still don't know how to paraphrase, if you still think you don't know how to do that, shoot me an email. We'll go over it. We can go over it in person. I'll have my laptop with me while I'm on vacation. We can have a Zoom session. But write every sentence, every word originally. Make sure you've got a thesis sentence. Make sure your paragraph has a topic sentence. Okay? I'm seeing paragraphs that are just random nonsense crammed together. Uh, right. And I know it's because you're assembling them. You're pasting them together. You're not writing originally and telling a story originally. You need to have the thoughts clear in your head of what you want to say, how you want to address a topic, and then start with an outline so you have your main points, and then fill in the details for each level of your outline. That's probably a paragraph. This is easy stuff, guys, but it takes time and effort. And unfortunately, some of you are not willing to put in the time and the effort, and you're not going to get the desired result. And that is just the way of the world. So if you have any questions or concerns, email me. As I said, I will check my email twice a day, even on vacation, and answer your questions promptly. Um, and I expect the same from you. I don't, same day service. All right, guys? Okay. I look forward to the discussion this week. Have a great Labor Day weekend and a great week.